Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the top 5 best class mods for Harlowe in Borderlands 4. Now, there's a lot of ones that are extremely powerful here. I got some honorable mentions as well, some purples that we'll be breaking down in this video. Harlowe has some extremely powerful builds. I think she is the strongest character in Borderlands 4, and that's because she's got the craziest skill trees, and even her worst skill tree is still really good. Now, for honorable mentions, we do have a few here. Now, there are some good purple class mods. I want to make that very clear, as there's actually some purple class mods that are better than some legendaries in this game. This one gives really good radiation damage, so critical hits will deal bonus radiation damage. Then we get the gamma ray burst, which is a huge burst to our extra damage. And then it can also give another roll into the fissile launcher, which does have a little extra radiation projectiles that'll form off this. So pretty decent rolls for the skills on here, and then decent enough for the extra ability. And that is a random drop. Now, our other honorable mention is going to be the generator here. Now, this one's a little bit weird in how it works, because actually, if you're going to use the flux generator, our best capstone doesn't actually apply with this one. So if you take the group study, which is actually pretty crazy if you use a green skill tree build, because you can activate it, get a 25% boost to your gun damage, and then every time you activate it, you keep getting more boosts, and it's absolutely crazy. However, this is one meant for this class skill tree, and it doesn't actually apply to it, but it will decrease the action skill duration by 50% and give you plus 200% action skill power. It's an okay choice, but as far as her class mods go, there's actually better for this one. And all the different skill point rolls that you can get is, so you get neutron decay here. Whenever we irradiate an enemy, we get increased gun damage. This is actually a really good roll. You can see there, 18% gun damage per stack, and you get 5 stacks. That's actually a pretty nice boost. 90% at full stacks. This also can roll in the resonance cascade. Whenever we deal radiation damage to an enemy, we get increased action skill damage, which is okay. We also get a capstone one here with the runaway reaction. Increased status effect chance. Whenever you apply a status effect to an enemy, it becomes entangled. And then this will give us an increased status effect chance to 50% if you have an extra, if you go all the way in the skill tree. So that's nice. Getting a capstone is kind of rare. And it can also roll with the control group here. So kill skill, killing an entangled enemy restores a part of our action skill cooldown. Now, this is a okay one. There's much better on this list. It was actually a really hard list to make because there's so many good ones. And if you want to farm one of these for yourself, you actually go fight Vile Lictor, who's a very annoying boss. So, hey, you can save yourself from farming this one. It also gives you a plus 45% action skill duration that's always going to roll on this, which is an okay ability, but there's better here. And in 5th place is the Bio Robot. This is actually, this whole list was hard to make because some of these actually empower certain builds quite a bit. Cryo and radiation being the 2 main damage types that Harlowe does specialize in. So whenever we entangle an enemy, which we do often, we create alternating cryo hazards and radiation hazards. Hazards in Borderlands 4 are not very high damage, but this one will always come with a roll of 45% boosted hazard damage, and you can get other rolls like damage dealt or skill damage, damage reduction, the usual suspects there. So this one's good because it can empower certain skills in our skill tree. Like, we have a lot of abilities here. Whenever we deal radiation damage or irradiate enemies, we get boosts to our action damage or our action skill damage as well. This is mostly good if you're on the red skill tree, because you can get things like the Poison Sun, increasing radiation damage and a radiation chance. This will make it so we shoot radiation darts at irradiated enemies, bonus radiation damage to entangled enemies, and whenever we irradiate an enemy, we get explosions, and this one will leave hazards, which we already got covered with this. Critical hit chance against, yeah, there's like a lot of builds that actually specialize with these damages, but the hazards are just not good. They did recently buff hazard damage like 50 to 100% on certain cases, so we'll likely see buffs to this in the future, but from my experience, this one doesn't always work as good as some of the other choices that we do have here, and that's why I'm only going to put it in the 5th place. However, it is in certain setups good. It can come with the conformative reality skill tree though, which is really good, especially on if you're going like all in the blue or the red, because every time that you shoot an enemy, you get action skill cooldown for you and your entire team, and this applies per shot. So if you have a shotgun with 5 pellets, that's 5 shots that you can actually get really quickly. On the bod shotgun, this is great. And this works very well with Katagawa's Revenge, because the lightning jellyfish will actually shock the enemy multiple times, and all 3 of them will trigger this really quickly. You can also get things like the feedback loop. Whenever we entangle enemies, we get increased action skill damage duration and action skill cooldown rate. This is great if you built into the red skill tree as well. You can also get the sustained reactions. Kill skill, killing an entangled enemy restores a portion of our action skill duration, so we can stay in our action skill longer, which doesn't really always apply to some of these other ones. And the final skill it can roll is the practical application, so this will increase our skill damage. Now, if you're running a red skill tree, this is actually a pretty good choice, because it's going to give you the conformative reality there. It'll do a little tiny bit of chip damage with those hazards. This was a tough list again. I'm just going to mention that here. So 5th place, but there's some other really good ones here too. And next up is the reactor. Now, a lot of people said this one is the best, but for my testing, there's better, surprisingly. Actually, I just want to mention that the bio robot, you actually farm this from Idolator Soul, so that is on that right-hand section of the map down right over here. So yeah, if you want to farm that. But with the reactor here, so whenever we entangle an enemy, we get a reactor stack. With every stack, we get a +2 to our movement speed. It's great. But once we hit 10 stacks, we then get not only the 20% movement speed, but gun damage, fire rate, reload speed, and status effect damage for 12 seconds. And then we lose all stacks once this ends. That's pretty good. You're going to entangle enemies no matter what you're doing. So this one works on all different builds, and it actually gets some pretty decent skill rolls as well. So you can get things like the decoherence here, so increased damage to with all sources to entangled enemies. Enemies inside of our flux generator take further increased damage. So that's good because you can actually do a pretty great number of extra damage on enemies utilizing decoherence. You also get a point in the elephant's foot, which is an interesting reference, but whenever Harlowe's shield breaks, she deals radiation damage equal to all entangled enemies. Harlowe gains overshield, basically however much damage you get overshield from this, which is okay, but not really worth investing in normally. You also get force of will. Whenever Harlowe critically hits an enemy, daze that enemy, and they'll have decreased movement speed and attack speed. That's kind of cool. And the final skill that it can roll is the Bright Future. Whenever Harlowe triggers or re-triggers an action skill, she gets increased fire rate. With certain ones, you can activate your action skill often, so that's a nice boost for 8 seconds. So yeah, this one is pretty good because it's a flat-out buff. It's kind of like the Super Soldier Shield. Getting a boost to your movement speed is pretty nice. And also, all those extra benefits are pretty powerful. It just gives you a flat-out boost to your damage, and if you don't know what you're going to do with your build, this is just a good one to have. And if you want to farm one of these for yourself, it's actually just going to be at the Arc of Inceptus here, and you can just farm from that boss. It's a pretty straightforward fight. Now again, this list was very hard to make, but third place, we got the Driver. Now, this one is actually really good because it gives a flat-out 10% lifesteal on all damage. This is not just whenever you use your Chroma Accelerator. The Chroma Accelerator gets even further lifesteal, so that's a 30% lifesteal because it gives a plus 20%. But where this really shines is it actually gives a really good skill roll on this. This is one that I wanted to put higher, but again, there's so many good ones here. Gives you actually an increase to your maximum shield capacity. And then it also gives you keep ice on that. So all crowd damage that we deal gains lifesteal. And if Harlowe's health is full, she gains shield instead. So this is really good because you can compare this together, use a cold build. Not only are you getting a bunch of lifesteal, but you're also getting lifesteal from your cold damage. This will also boost up your elemental damage. You can get you get a bunch of different rolls on that, of course, like the other ones here. But I've found that, yeah, I got multiple with the elemental damage and lifesteal on them. So that seems to be one of the most common ones. And that's actually really good because this is great for a build that wants to focus on that. But you get really good skill rolls on this one again. Keep ice on that being pretty good overall. 3% lifesteal and 4% overshield steal is pretty nuts. Similarly, with Vex, she has her Teen Witch class mod, which lets her get shield and overshield lifesteal. Pretty nuts. You can make yourself very defensive with this, especially if you're using a cryo-based weapon. And then you also get the highly efficient. Whenever we kill an enemy with a skill, we restore a portion of our shield capacity. So that, as you can imagine, gets good, especially if the boss has a lot of additional enemies to fight. And then you also got that mains hum there, which gives you increased shield capacity and overshield capacity. So despite it sounding like you, because again, you go to 1 health point whenever you would use this attack, and it amps the Chrome Accelerator. So it gives it more damage, which is huge, especially since when we consider things like the neutron capture here being so powerful, and it takes 4% of the action skill damage dealt, adds it to your gun. When you use something like this, it just further enhances that and gives you a bunch of extra survivability on top of that. It becomes really crazy really quickly. And what's cool is that our Chroma Accelerator actually does cryo damage too, so that gets lifesteal as well on top of that. I actually got a roll here that gives a 90% increase overshield capacity and shield capacity. So if you get a lifesteal going and the overshield capacity, it's nuts. It's a really hard time of rolling Dirty Bomb. I haven't seen it myself, but it does roll Dirty Bomb. So you can get this and it'll actually give you a boost. So if you end up taking this, you can actually get it and take 2 points in, which gives 80% of total radiated damage. I love the ones that add capstones. It's very rare. So yeah, Driver, pretty nuts in all honesty. I did want to put this higher. I actually love lifesteal, so this is my #1 personal favorite in the game for Harlowe. However, the other two do bring a lot of versatility to build, so that's why I don't have this one in first place, despite this being my favorite. And to farm one for yourself, if you want the Driver, you're going to go to the Arc of Origo here, and this is actually a really fun boss to farm. It's my favorite vault to farm, so you can go and fight him. In second place, this, again, I'm just going to mention very tough because the Scientist is so good on a variety of builds. So whenever we shock an enemy, she automatically entangle and irradiate that enemy. And whenever we entangle an enemy, electric arcs will shoot out from that enemy to other nearby enemies. This is also pretty crazy because it gives you a really good skill ability, which you may not normally take because you may not use the blue skill tree, but it allows you to get ripple effect. And what's even crazier is you can actually take another point in that so that whenever you entangle one enemy, 2 more enemies get entangled. So you can actually get 3 total for the price of 1. That's pretty fun stuff. But There's really nice builds that you can use because when you shock an enemy, you then irradiate it. And as I previously mentioned, there's a lot of points where you get benefits from irradiating enemies. There's a lot of builds that actually focus on actually irradiating enemies, so you can use shock-based weapons. And actually, the best weapon for the Chrome Accelerator and Neutron Capture is Katagawa's Revenge, a shock-based weapon, because it's, again, mentioning the jellyfish that it shoots off. They attack the enemy multiple times, and it actually applies Neutron Capture damage multiple times really quickly. So this can all combine together, shocking enemy and irradiating it all at once. Very powerful. And then again, you get the Neutron Decay. Whenever you irradiate an enemy, we get a 10% increased gun damage per stack, so 50% extra gun damage. It just combines together to make a really nice buff. And you can also get from this class mod a level in the periodic table Flip, which will give you boosts to your elemental damage, application chance, and cryo effectiveness. It can also roll the experimentation, which isn't really that amazing, but kill skill entangled enemies cause an explosion on all other entangled enemies. Actually, it can be sometimes kind of nice. You can get this one gives a +5. It's actually pretty high damage, but not like a massive game changer. We also got the ripple effect. I guess it's more so for mobbing, less for bossing, I should clarify. The ripple effect, whenever you kill an entangled enemy, will automatically entangle. As mentioned, that's really nice to have. And the final skill it can roll is the action at a distance. Whenever we apply a status effect to an enemy, we can apply it to another one. So there's a lot of different rolls that you can get for this. I would recommend going with the one that's going to bounce around to multiple enemies. The big thing about this is we're going to want to shock enemies often. Shocks have the highest damage over time of all elemental damage types in Borderlands 4, so that's something we want to do, because then it irradiates the enemy, and then whenever we have them entangled, it's going to have that shock around to multiple enemies. And why this is so good is because when you get the roll that gives you increased amount of entangled enemies, you entangle someone, it's going to entangle more, and they're all going to get shocked, and then you're going to deal shock damage to them, you're going to irradiate them, and then you're going to set up your builds, because there's a lot of things that proc off of irradiation damage. So this one came with a bonus to damage dealt and splash damage. This one came with splash damage and status effect application chance. This gun actually works pretty well with the Oh My God if you got a good shield on, like the Watch for Dinner. A pretty fun build, but it is cool, but not as good as the last one we got here. And our best class mod, in my opinion. Now, this may make you scratch your head when it says Stasis. Stasis, as I previously said, is the worst unfortunate skill tree for Harlowe, as it just doesn't have the same, it's more for mobbing and not for bossing, where the red and green can just shred bosses, and bosses are a big part of the content in the game. However, this one doesn't need to be used for Stasis. It says it gives extra benefits for Stasis, but it has a few really good things that we want from it. If you notice at the bottom, it says shooting an enemy with an active status effect restores 5% of the action skill cooldown. This is actually pretty absurd because, again, the bod shotgun, all those pellets will actually count multiple times. So a bod shotgun gives you 25% cooldown on a single shot. Yeah, it does give you a boost to your stasis damage, which is not something you're going to utilize if you're not using this one. So it's probably best to use it with stasis. However, that status effect application is just so good. I was actually going to put this one in like the 5th place, but I tried it out. It's just really nice. So let's say we use our action skill and we have 30 seconds to cool down. Let's use it again. 30 seconds, immediately back. Yeah, immediately back. Immediately back. It's kind of silly how it works. We're somehow still activating it like immediately here. All right, so let's use another action skill. We'll throw on the red one. Boom, activated. 29 seconds. Oh, of course. Yeah, we get it back so fast that it's literally impossible, so I'll just activate it again there, and then we got 29 seconds, we got it back immediately. It's really weird how it works, because certain things will actually activate it multiple times, so yeah, you basically get infinite action skill from this, no matter your build. So if you really like using Neutron Capture Harlowe, despite this saying stasis, you can just continue spam your ability. It's kind of ridiculous. Works best with the Katagawa's Revenge, as mentioned, because you can then do the shock ones there, and then with those shock ones that they're just going to keep replenishing it. Yeah, I was a skeptic at first. I didn't think it was that good, but you saw it there for your very eyes. You don't have to use stasis. It's crazy. And they actually got a nice boost to the skill damage, 30%, so this actually works very well if you want to do the red skill tree, because this gives you infinite time on Neutron Capture, adding 4% of your action skill damage onto your gun, which is just absurd. And yeah, pretty crazy stuff. And if you want to get yourself a skeptic of your own, you're going to come up over here and fight the Callus boss fight. So there you have it, folks. Those are the best class mods for Harlowe in Borderlands 4. Let me know your favorite, though, in the comments. There's a lot of really great ones. This was a tough video to make. I kept saying it just because all of these are really good, but you saw the skeptic. It's actually really nuts in how it works. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next video.